very difficult because I'm working. Yes, got it. All right. I don't understand the technology. I only work with an iPad, and it's fucking murder.
It is. Hopefully, it will all go well. Okay, John, it's fantastic to talk to you. You meant a great deal to me. But okay, I want to be professional today. We don't have much time, so we have to do this interview for Classic Rock Italy about the new album and a lot of stuff. I have a lot of questions to ask to you, so I shoot away. Okay.
Yes, sir.
You agree? My name is Francesco. Okay.
Hello, Francesco. Ciao.
Ciao, John. Ciao, John. I shoot my questions right away. Okay. And the World is the 11th PIL album, the third of the new era with the recent lineup. Just a banal question. May I ask you where and when it was recorded, considering you've been quite, busy recently, a lot of stuff happening to you also?
It was done last year, and then bits previously. We had started work on this before the COVID epidemic broke out, and that put the knockers on a lot of things and created so many different emotional problems for us. But mostly last year. Very, very difficult because I had to take the time away from my wife to do this because I couldn't cope with that 24/7 caring and write songs that had to be outside of that particular subject matter as well. So an awful lot of pressure on me. But, I've got to say the chaps, the Pillocks, helped me through, and I think we've come up with a masterful record.
Yeah, it is. It is. Look, John, the title reminded me, and the world, it reminded me of a passage in your book, Anger is an Energy, which I'm going to read to you. Here it is. Here's the book. In the summer of 2011.
He's not in Italiano. No. Italiano.
English version. No, in 2011, you had a fire in your house in Fulham. And the fire in your place in Fulham. You're right. The only really important thing here was that Nora didn't die in it. That would have been the end of my life. If it had been the end of hers, it quite clearly would have been the end of mine. I don't have been able to cope with that. Is the title of the album related to that to a certain extent?
No. It's to do with the current state of affairs in both politics and religions and confusions. It's well, you could break it down to left wing, right wing if you're so inclined, but everybody is not listening to everybody else, and that deliberate opposition to free thought will be end of world. If we are not allowed to debate, argue, or question any longer without the accusations being immediately thrown at you, no matter what your point of view or your historical perspective or historical place in things, you could be labelled racist for no apparent good reason known to mankind, other than it suits a political agenda of someone who doesn't like to be questioned. And that's both left wing and right wing, and I'm really, really disappointed with them. If, as a human species, we're to have a future, it must surely rely on debate rather than dictate.
Yeah, John, what you said.
Karl Marx wore jack boots. This is like how the modern interpretation is. But I remember years ago, when I first went to Italy for any period of time was when I made that film with Harvey Keitel, The Order of Death. It was an amazing experience living in Rome. But the basic principle of Italians, when I asked them, what? I see the demonstrations, anti-fascist, anti-communist, and I'd ask, what is the declaration of that? How do you justify which side is which? And it was put really like almost like a Fellini movie to me. You're communist if you rent, you're fascist if you own. Superbly Italian. I love the simplicity, and at the same time, like nobody taking it too seriously.
What you just said about what's happening today makes me anticipate a question, because I was watching the other night before the interview the Bill Grundy incident with my 2023 eyes, and I noticed a few things which will be impossible today. Like, you were all smoking and drinking in the studio. There was one guy wearing a swastika armband. There was a mature man making passes, and the young girl, a teenager, Susie. None of this will be accepted today. On the other hand, swearing on TV is just common today. It won't cause any shock. So if it happened today, people will be talking about
the whole point of anybody wearing a... let me just interrupt. I don't mean to be rude, but the wearing of a swastika, that was a symbol of a political force that could have destroyed the world, but they lost. So it's kind of a humiliation badge to the bad guys of the world. Now, and some of the people that were with us there went on to become Susie and the Banshees, for instance, in punk. But I'm sure at the time they thought they were wearing a swastika upside down. Think about it. The irony and the laughter involved of such a tragic, disgusting part of history, but you're never going to get over it until you see it for what it is. And you're never going to get to where it is unless you openly debate it. Freedom of thought. That's what we were expressing on that Grundy interview. This is how we really are. This is what working class kids think, do, and live every day of their lives. Rather than the TV intelligentsia judging us and misappropriating us into convenient categories.
Yeah, because the question was, considering that program, what do you think, John? Are we more free today, or are we less free? Because
definitely less. Definitely less, much less. The institutions of higher learning are turning out robotized morons who are. Are they told not to debate the point of view that's being like shafted at them? They seem very, very volatile and hyper insensitive to other points of view. This is not healthy. You know, all my life, I mean, I've gone to see bands. I thought I wouldn't like them and come home refreshed because I did. You know, that includes Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin for like music lovers out there. It's you can't allow any institution to dictate your innermost feelings, because the highest accolade you could give to yourself, which is surely God's gift of creation, is individual thinking.
Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of words for you to translate.
I will.
I'll break it down for you. Don't tell me my point of view. Ever.
Never.
Ask me, and it's yours.
Okay.
Well, I don't mean follow me religiously either. Have your own point of view. Be able to interpret and read between the lines, and you'll find the world a less volatile place.
John, I have a lot of questions about the new album, about the new tracks. For instance, I was intrigued by the reference to Penge, which is a nondescript suburb south of London. I only know about it because the Spiders of Mars used to live there, because David Bowie used to live there in Beckenham. Yeah, the Spiders of Mars used to live in Penge. They were lodged in Penge. Penge. Why did you choose Penge?
It's just a name. It's like it's well known in England as the dullest place on earth.
Okay.
But it's like everywhere. If you bother to go back in history, obviously had a tragedy. Penge really refers to invasion, Viking invasion, by way of example. And what do you do about that? And are the alternatives to saving your children worse than the ongoing threat? And there is that situation in the song where the druid is leading the children away. Don't tell your parents. They'll steal your destiny. So he knows the parents are all going to get slaughtered. He's confiscated the kids into his own ideology, and he's profiteering from massive slaughter going on in the village they came from. That's the devil you know or the devil you don't know. They're both devils. And how do you avoid those situations?
Okay, now I understand. Okay, I didn't understand the meaning of the song. One of my favorite tracks is LCFC, classic Lydon. What the liars, cheaters, fakers, and frauds.
Well, it could refer to many situations that I've had to endure in my life.
Okay, let's leave it.
It's not about specifically, it is about, but we won't say who. Let's say it's a very thin mask I'm wearing on that one. But the situation is applicable. You know, people that will want to use you, take credit for your efforts, and abandon you at the first opportunity. Again, a warning, you know.
Yeah,
it's all very well and fine in life to have all the right attitudes and a caring, open mind, but you will be savaged for that, as indeed I expect to be. It's still an ongoing situation. I won't give up my hope for humanity, regardless of all the examples that are thrown at me constantly. Because every now and again you'll come across people that aren't atypical, aren't narcissists, aren't evil, aren't manipulative, are kind-hearted, and genuinely care about each other. Yes, it's exceptional, is what I'm seeking.
Okay. Another great song is Being Stupid Again. I love the hippie baiting, like bend the bomb, save the whale, give peace a chance. I perfectly understand it. It's, again, typical rotten Lydon. But isn't there, John, a risk?
Yeah, but I'm trying to make fun of it in such a light-hearted way that it gives the extremism of left-wing thinking a way out of itself. Okay. At the moment, the left is incapable of being questioned and incapable of humor. And they're not checking their own faults. They're not checking their own facts, if they have any. And it's the same with the right. And I find this utterly amazing. What kind of condition have we got ourselves into now, where we're abandoning intelligent thought? It seems to be an ongoing theme in this album. And I suppose it is. And at the same time, I've got to add, I don't mean to bring Nora into this, but I've had to deal with what is life as an issue in general. And, well, this is what I've done with it. This is my thought process about it all. What is the value of any of this? And if we're going to continue as a species, well, we need to like shapeshift a little bit here and be far more generous in our thoughts and come to grips when you have to deal with grief. Be absolutely solidly correct in your thinking that It's not woe is me. It's not a matter of self-pity. It's not a matter of self-indulgence and think it's all a plot to destroy you. It is a fact of life that death is inevitable. Years ago, I wouldn't have been able to comprehend that.
Yeah.
But I've had to. I've had something like, what should we say? I don't know how the years go, because I don't count Christmases, but let's say 7 years of having to deal with the inevitable with Nora, and there it is now. And I can tell you it's far worse than I was expecting. But at the same time, gosh, she had a good life, and I loved her ever so much. You know, I didn't abandon her, which many people were expecting. I had no understanding of why they would think that, because I'm very, very loyal. Friends, family, loved ones, never let you down. And so, well, there's a little warning, and LCF and all of that is telling you that, you know, if you just treated me with a little bit of respect, look at what you could have had, rather than me contempt. It's a difficult one, life, but we have to come to grips with it. And nothing is ever going to be answered with political bandwagoning. I think I genuinely despise all politicians and all believers in political theory, because they're ultimately, without even realizing it, evil. And they don't understand what life, love, and community really are. Bingo, intellectuals, get a family. That'll stop that nonsense. And my family is planet Earth.
John, of course, you mentioned what happened.
And I'm currently drinking Italian spring water.
Ah, San Pellegrino. One of the best. Okay. Expensive in the States, I guess.
Yeah, but I grew a love for it. I didn't like it at first, but now I do. And you know, Perrier is basically salt, isn't it?
Yes, salty. John, of course, you mentioned what happened to you. I'd like to ask you about Hawaii, which is a very important song for you. May I ask you about the genesis of it, the lyrics, what it really means to you? It's a goodbye song. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very difficult to play it to Nora before she died. She kind of didn't like it. Alzheimer's and whatever, but I think that it was a farewell, kind of upset her, where she loved all the other songs, Car Chase and things like that. You know, we go like that together. That's a song that's about 4 years in the making. It came from an idea of Lou Edmonds, the guitarist. He was just in the studio playing this like Hawaiian, I thought, Hawaiian theme. He wasn't seeing it that way at all. But I grabbed onto it, and I wanted to work on that further. At the time, Nora was around the studio, and she was like not really controllable. She would hit panic notes, so I didn't get much chance to work on it. Then came COVID, and during that 2 years of being a 24/7 carer of her, I started to pen the words. I wanted them to, every single word, to mean something deeply personal to this situation. Whether I achieved that or not, that's up to a general public. But yeah, it's an ongoing tragedy, but my gosh, worth every second of it, because I found the good in it. Right? And that's my message, right? Don't wallow in self-pity or grief or sadness. She went well, right? She went well, and she went happy.
Yeah.
Well, apart from the night when she suffocated slowly to death. And, but we won't go there.
No, let's not. Let's not.
Alzheimer's is so wicked because the brain isn't controlling the bodily functions anymore at some point, and it's absolutely a nightmare for them. She knew when bits were missing, and it would upset her, but I kept her happy. She knew she was loved. Hello. There's a message from me to the world, like, just let them know they're loved.
You did good, Johnny. Of course, I love the song, but I didn't think it was material for the Eurovision contest, which is kind of kitschy. Of course, you tried to enter the contest for Ireland with that song. I thought what you did was
I didn't try. I was asked.
You were asked. Okay. I thought it was a kamikaze. It was a kamikaze act. It was.
But we were asked to contribute to that on behalf of Ireland several years earlier.
Okay.
And so it was always there in the pipeline, but it definitely wasn't there in the writing or creation of the song.
Okay.
It's just some very nice Irish people thought, oh my gosh, this could change this institution into something far more seriously better. And so we gave it a go. It was the hardest thing for me to do, to sing that live in the studio. I broke down, right? Because she was still very much alive.
Yeah.
And I had to give up being with her to do that. But the wonderful end result was when I came back and I played it to her. She loved it live, you see. She picked out that ridiculous pink suit beforehand. I was going through what to wear on stage, for instance. She went, that. And when she's seen the video of it, it thrilled her, right? It made her laugh, and it woke up something in her Alzheimer's distress that was really enjoyable that we could share together. So success all round. And how wonderfully lucky of me to have been given that opportunity. I did something the year before, prior, at a show called I can't remember the name of it now. But you had to guess who the famous singer was, and I went on as a court jester, my version of, and she knew that was me. Right? And so it's an amazing thing. I always thought I didn't have friends in this industry, and yet they gave me these opportunities to make Nora extremely happy. Right?
Was pretty good. Okay.
It worked wonderful that somebody out there was paying attention and thought there's a bigger issue here. It's not just about my ego. We're sharing something here that other people can truly learn from. Wonderful. Never knew like inside the industry that people actually were that kind and considerate.
John,
God bless them. God bless them.
John, of course, you have this new band now. We've been having this new band for a few years. But PIL...
Hardly new then, is it?
I mean, I'd like to talk about, because PIL has had some great musicians in the past. I'd like to talk about Keith Levine, who died last November. I know you weren't in good relations with him.
It doesn't matter.
Say the least. Well, would you like to say something about him? Because he was a huge part of the PIL myth, of the legend.
Yeah, a lot has been said there in hindsight, and people looking back, journalism, music journalism being what it is. I suppose it's like the art world. It's incredibly fake and fraud, and they'll over-aggrandize things. Look, Keith was great to work with until the drugs became unbearable, right? his drug ingestion was not legendary, it was dismal. And it put an end to us working together. It's a sad thing, you know, very sad thing. I'd say Keith's guitaring was like more along the lines of it's an old English band, Wishbone Ash.
Wishbone
and
Ash.
people should listen to, like, you know, what our true history is. Was not a bunch of like jaded artists with wealthy parents living in the lower Manhattan. We were listening to things that were in our own culture. We never had much access to, you know, the lower east side of Manhattan. Everything was relative to us. So yeah, he had a great way of rhythm. It was so almost lazy, but the fingers would land so appropriately. It was almost like he was indifferently fucking beautiful with it. It's, you know, rhythm guitar is such a fantastically hard thing to comprehend. Kiefer comprehended it. Accolades, you know, more power to him. No enemy of mine, by the way.
All right.
Not at all.
Great. Talking about old collaborators, I cannot not ask you about Pistol, the series, because you fought against it and you lost. It got made. I agree with you. It's bullshit. It was bullshit. It was fiction. It was reasonable. Just like Sid and Nancy, by the way. But don't you think that fighting those fights is a bit like going against windmills? I mean, when you're a legend, stuff is bound to come out.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying here, sir. But it was the plot was far deeper than that, and it was really about taking control of the merchandise and the selling of the brand. Right? Not only to do with that TV production, but down to merchandise now and everything else. And I wanted to put an argument in there that, you know, there should be a joint agreement, as it always was in the past. But when the Disney Corporation piled an enormous amount of money behind the other three, I'd lost the case. But I had to make the point. I had to make the stance. Yes, it cost me financially, almost to the point of ruin. But they knew what they were doing, and they knew that I couldn't afford the ruin at the time because I needed to take care of my baby. They knew what they were up to. And so they've turned the Pistols now into not the legend they fully deserve to be known as, but as three greedy gits selling kiss me quick hats on the beach, rather than the pure, honest statements like what I wrote. That's all gone out the window. Now, my side of things is viewed as ranting by them. And so get the bigger picture, sir. I'm fighting for what is right, what is true in life, and not commercialism. I'm not anti-commercial, but I'm anti-fabrication.
No,
just to make a quick dollar.
I appreciate that, absolutely. What was like? It's been a long time since you heard from Johnson Cook. When was
I don't speak to them, and I never will again.
Okay, that's definitely.
They know the grief that they put me through there.
Okay.
And they've been remarkably coy and secretive about it. It was some 3 years in the making of that documentary without a word being said to me before I found out. And then I was presented with I think it was a very short time where I either had to agree or they'd take me to court. And I didn't have long enough. I asked to assess the script. Nothing was allowed to be shown to me. I wasn't even invited to the premiere. So there you go. The man what wrote all the songs, led the image, front man, etc., was completely shafted.
Okay, I
You
understand.
know, it's like, it's kind of ludicrous. I can't imagine you like, I don't know, kicking Robert Plant out of Led Zeppelin, or Mick Jagger out of the Stones. I'm not being big-headed here and putting myself in that way, but I mean, what are the Smiths without Robert Smith?
The Cure.
No, the Cure. Sorry, and oh, that's funny if you think about it. They'd be the Cure.
John,
Or
unfortunately,
the Smith, or the Smiths without Morrissey. There had to be that guiding force to make this work, and it certainly wasn't the other three.
yeah.
They don't live the life, man. They don't live the life. They don't.
John,
You
unfortunately,
know?
we only have 10 minutes left. What is your opinion on Generation Sex, a super group with members of Sex Pistols and Generation X, which is on tour this summer, coming to Italy too?
Oh wow, it's that's not even an original idea, is it? I've seen the Stone Temple Pilots combined with some other like mob doing this, and these kind of regurgitations, they were kind of very popular in the 60s when ex-Yardbird members would meet with blah blahs, and but that's because at that time they were all session musicians. Now it's like just seen as a money-making machine, and it comes over extremely unhealthy. It feels turgid, and you're wallowing in a misnomer if you think that that in any way represents the originality of the acts you're trying to combine and clump into one new, exciting driving force. That isn't what you're achieving. You're kind of muddying it and making it all trashy.
Yeah. John, going back
it's
to...
like scraping the bottom of a dustbin. You know, it needs some detergent.
John, okay, I have to go fast. Going back to PIL, I heard you complaining in the past that they have always been a bit undervalued, also your contribution as a songwriter. But actually, I think the critics hold in high regard the first three albums. What about the other seven, now eight? Is there one that maybe you think has been really undervalued, that you like and will be
I think yes,
rediscovered?
yeah. Look, the whole lot of them. You have to understand like the record company cut the financial strings and left me stranded, and declared that I was in debt, and it was very, very hard for me to raise the money, and I'd have to do that independently and go into my own bank accounts from previous earnings. So I managed to maintain the band long enough, but then it became impossible. And there was, what is it, 18 years where I actually couldn't function because the debt was so outstanding that I've even thought about doing, say, a live pill gig. Any money earned on that would be immediately confiscated as owned to the record label. That was a catch-22 that really, really, really became very hard to manage. At the same time, Ariana, which is Nora's daughter, that her of the Slits fame, her kids, she couldn't manage. So they came to live with us.
Yeah.
So I found myself going to parent-teacher association meetings while dealing with being ostracized from a music industry that was thriving off my ideas. Very complicated. And so I wanted to put out what I thought were just basic pop records, right? With a twist, you know, and a line here and there that would make you think about, well, how is this all being operated and manipulated? Not too many of the music press wanted to pay attention to that aspect because they'd already decided that I was an obstacle and I had to be moved out of the way in order for, I don't know, Massive Attack, Smashing Pumpkins, all these kind of acts for them to come in. A great example of this is when I did Album.
Oh.
Right? The record company, I didn't want to list who played on it. I didn't want to give no credits to anyone, including myself, right? And we used the generic principle: record, album, cassette, cup, whatever, which was very a big idea in the supermarkets in America at the time. That, you know, cup with cup written on it was cheaper than any other cup, kind of thing. The record company decided that they wanted to invest a huge amount of money into Metallica. And even though our album went straight in at Billboard, I think number 80, no more copies were pressed, and I was removed from the label within 2 weeks. Right? Those are the backdrops that I've endured all my life. Yeah? And that's not self-pity here. I'm just telling you basic truths.
All right.
This is the story of my life. It's a constant struggle. This isn't me being a spoiled brat, which is, of course, the misrepresentation that's going on out there.
John, before the connection, because you mentioned Cop Killer, which was your one and only movie you acted in. You didn't do any. What was good? You were good in that movie. I mean, it could become a cult movie. You didn't act again, even though you were asked. I think also from some important directors. Why? Because you could have had a second career in that area. Why you did
I didn't want that. Yeah, no. I thought I'd give it a go because as Pill, we were going through internal battles, you know. It's and there was like a 6-month break. We were going to take off from each other and figure out where it was we stood. And up come this film idea, and I went for it. As soon as I knew Harvey Keitel was in it, wow. I thought, great, he'll teach me how to get this acting malarkey down. He didn't. But I enjoyed his company. I found him to be insane. I found acting to be insane. The whole concept of living in another personality, it was overwhelmingly oppressive to me. Okay. And so it's not something I ever want to experience again. But I'm really pleased I did. I mean, my God, a great example one day in the studio, we were doing a scene and I was supposed to be all angst-ridden and whatever. And the director, Roberto Faenza, went, cut, John, cut. In walked, is it Billy Wilder, the famous director? So everything was cancelled for him. The film was irrelevant. Here's a superstar of the industry. This is absurd. Absurd. And so, you know, but I've met similar situations too. It's when I was doing album, you know, and fair play to Bill Laswell, the producer. That's wonderful, like arguments me and him would have. But well, for instance, the young band I had, they weren't capable really of handling pressure of rehearsing the songs before you record. They just fell apart. So we had to just be busy on the phone, hoping anyone would come in and fill in. That was a huge moment in my life, by the way, when I found out that there were still people out there who really did respect me. You know, people like Ginger Baker.
Yeah, he played on them.
I mean, these are untouchable legends. And in they come, and oh, just the fear, but also the proudness of knowing that I was writing